WDXE News, on the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 5395.
And it's time for Bulletproof Estate Planning with Stan Pierchoski here. How are you, my buddy?
I'm good. Good morning, Jeff.
Wow, we just barely made it.
Yeah, we did. Well, we were here. We were just talking.
We were talking. I got distracted with our conversation and almost forgot to push the buttons.
You know, when you're in radio and you're looking, it's like 10 seconds is a long time in radio.
Yeah,
it can be.
But 5 seconds is really quick.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, good morning. Good morning. Here we are again, Bulletproof Estate Planning on Friday morning. We're going to give the phone number right off the bat so I don't forget it.
Yes.
And, we like this to be an interactive show. You get questions, call. I get questions at the office and through email all the time. So if you're a radio listener and you're not too shy to call in and ask questions, help yourself. The number we have is 931-766-9393. Easy number to remember. 931-766-9393.
That is correct.
Call and ask a question, share an experience, something like that. I just want to start out about the seminar coming up, and then I'll bring it up again at the end of the hour. But I've got a seminar coming up on November the 22nd, so that's going to be 2 weeks from tomorrow, a Saturday seminar. We call it Wills, Trust in the Nursing Home, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, this one's going to be up in Franklin, up in Williamson County, and we're holding it at the Williamson County Public Library. And like I said, at 10 o'clock on that Saturday, the physical address of the Williamson County Public Library is 1314 Columbia Avenue in Franklin. So I will bring that up again at the end of the hour. If you want to come to that, it's not too far up the road.
No, not at all.
You know, be pretty decent weather, hopefully. It's a pretty nice drive on a Saturday morning. So anyway, so you asked me what I had on my mind, and I said, well, I kind of got a little fired up listening to you on the way in.
Well, we were talking about people running and not running, and voting and not voting, and then the things that we vote for. And then, of course, I was talking about people that have been elected to Washington offices just staying there forever.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of them.
There is a lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them.
Well, the ex-president, for one, been there for 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. Yeah, and Mitch McConnell, I don't know how long he was there, but way too dang long.
He was there a long time.
And Nancy Pelosi now is finally, she's announced she's not going to run again. But
Unknown caller.
hello. Sorry about that. That's my
All right, give me your phone. Give me your phone.
Cell phone. I turned her off.
That's what they do in school. Give me your phone.
Somebody's looking for me already this morning.
Well, I'll tie it together with some of the stuff we talk about.
Yeah.
And that is, you were talking earlier about the, I think it was you guys mentioned it, about the mayor of New York. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys were mentioning something about that. And
Yeah.
first of all, I'm an attorney, so I understand how the law works. I understand constitutional law, and all the promises that he made. I'm wondering, with the exception of maybe doing the grocery stores, the government-run grocery stores, I don't see how he's going to accomplish it. When you think about it, a city, any city, doesn't matter if it's New York City or Lawrenceburg, a city is a subsidiary of the state.
Yes.
And so the state and any subsidiary thereof is bound by the state constitution. I mean, that's an absolute statement of fact.
Yeah.
And the state is bound by the federal constitution. A state can be more restrictive than the federal government, but it can't be more lenient. In other words, that's like a limit for them.
Yes.
So if the state requires this, the state can be a little more restrictive than that. They can make it more protective, but
Yes.
not less protective.
Yes.
Again, it depends on whether you're looking at the burden it is or the protection it provides. They can be. So they have some leeway, but they're still bound by the federal constitution. Now, when you just take some of the concepts that come up, and the one I'm thinking of particularly that ties into what we do a lot is, the communist, one of the planks of the Communist Manifesto, which, I know that he says, I'm not a communist, I'm a socialist, but, there's a play on words there, because the things he talks about are part of the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto.
True.
And one of the ones he talks about is the abolition of private property.
Yeah.
So, because private property, the theory is private property belongs to everybody and everybody to use.
Yeah.
And, which is complete opposite of capitalism.
You're right.
And, of course, when they do that, I hope I'll be retired by then, because there won't be any property for you to leave to your subsequent generations, because you won't have anything, okay?
Yeah.
Because you won't be allowed to own it. Now, our Constitution is has a lot to say about owning property. And we moved to these shores to own property. You know, when we were in England,
true.
England's only a small little country. It wasn't any bigger back in the 1700s or 1600s when we migrated here, right?
Yeah, physically small.
It's the same size, so that you didn't have too many landowners. You know, that's where the feudal system came about. You know, you have some landowners and a ton of people working the land for them because there wasn't enough. When they moved here in this big country, that's why, well, that's one of the main reasons they migrated this way, is to be property owners. And so the Constitution is very heavily worded about what it's like to own property. And to abolish it, I just don't think the authority exists at the level of a mayor of a city. I mean,
No,
I don't want
it
to be
does not.
demeaning, but it's a pretty low level office. Even if it's the biggest, you know, it's the mayor, it doesn't matter if it's the biggest city in the country or not, it's still just the mayor.
Right.
And their authority resides in where it resides, and that's all you have, no more, no less. Now, the question is, when they exceed their authority, are we gonna call them on it? You know, that's the, you know, because then you can do something about it.
Sure.
That, you know, so the abolition of property, I think, is just ridiculous for them to talk about it. What blows my mind is the people that fell for it and voted for it. Because
Mine too.
It's easy to say tax the rich, and I saw one of their
Yeah.
rallies, and everybody there was chanting tax the rich, tax the rich. You know, the same thing happened when they first came up with Social Security. You know, there was a slogan then, only that one was called "Soak the Rich." You know, and it was kind of designed to be that. But you know, it sounds like it's a great idea if you don't own property and you're on the lower end of the economic scale. You know, taxing the rich sounds like a good idea. Or making people not own private property, it sounds like a good idea, but it's not. It's completely unconstitutional. And once the government owns all the property, then they own everything that the property can do. And the whole concept of life
Right.
is what the property can do. And all the other planks in the manifesto are there as well. He says he's going to control the production, going to use all the resources to create places to rent. I love the one about rent freezes. That kills me, because if you freeze the rent, it seems to me there's a lot of landlords that are going to have something to say about that.
I would say so.
And the landlords might just say, screw it, I'm not renting.
Yeah.
I got a building here, I'm not going to rent it. And so next thing you know, that very concept will create a ton of people that don't have a place to rent.
Yeah.
Because they're not renting them anymore. So that every aspect will aspirate, exaggerate, or the negative things about the whole plan. So we'll see, because I don't think he has authority to do any of it. So I think it's going to be a lot of promises made and none kept, because he lacks the authority.
Well, when you take from producers and give to the non-producers, eventually you're going to have all non-producers.
That's exactly right.
And that's been proven over and over and over and over. And I don't understand why people don't know that.
Well, if you look at New York City,
but they do a good job of creating jealousy and angst from the non-producers to the producers, and making them feel like they're doing something unfair to them. And of course, we're supposed to live in a land of opportunity where everybody has the opportunity to succeed, and they do a good job of convincing people that they don't have what others have. And it's a matter of perspective and education.
the entire city of New York are consumers. They don't produce anything.
That's right.
Now, you think, well, what if they go down the tubes? What's that going to do to the country's economy? It'll have some effect, but they don't produce much. But since they're consumers, they purchase.
That's right.
And that's what we'll lose.
That's right.
But maybe not, because it's going to be a mass exodus. If they hadn't left yet, they're really, if they waited till now to leave, I have a funny feeling some of them won't be able to, because you're in the real estate business, right? And people say, well, if he gets elected, I'm going to leave. Well, now that he's elected and they think it's that bad that they have to leave, it's going to be a buyer's market, right? I mean, who's going to buy New York property now? And, maybe if they thought about it a year ago, it might not have been any better. But it's going to happen. And unfortunately, somebody was saying on the news that New York's just going to have to learn the hard way about this. So we're going to see. We'll see how it turns out.
I guess we'll see. And it's had an effect. You may have seen our governor. Did you see the video that he posted?
Governor Lee?
Yes.
I didn't.
Bill Lee actually, and I've seen the video where he says, hey, if you're thinking about leaving New York, Tennessee's a good place to come.
Oh, I did
You
hear
seen that? Basically,
somebody told me about it.
I didn't see the whole thing. I watched part of it like, okay, well, that's interesting. There were a lot of comments too, like, no, we're closed, we don't care. There were a lot of comments on the video.
I often take the position, it might be easier to take if they're coming here because they're escaping.
Yeah.
But if you're coming here to change, don't cross the border.
Yeah.
Don't even come in.
Yeah.
We got a state full of good old boys, and we're not gonna tolerate that. At least, if things start to domino, Tennessee will be the last one to give in, if they give in. If they come and take us, is what that.
I guess so.
But anyway,
so.
we stray.
We have strayed away, yes we have.
But we did tie it to the property.
That's right, and tied to property and possessions and all that, and of course that's all part of your estate.
Yeah, if you have a will,
If you have an estate.
if you have a will, it leaves all my farm and my property to my children. It may not be yours to give to them. If this catches on. You know, another thing I'm gonna say, and then I'll be quiet. Let me ask you a question. If this country is letting in socialist and communism, and now let's say it starts to spread. What does that say to every veteran that died or got wounded in every war that we ever fought? What does that say about that?
Wow.
Almost for naught?
Yeah.
You know, that's scary. That's a horrible thought.
Yeah, we were just talking about Veterans Day right around the corner, and there's a veterans celebration today, and all the veterans down here on the square.
I, for one, am just thankful to veterans that have served.
Well, amen. Yeah.
You know, whether you were wounded, killed, or survived. I mean, I'm just thankful for that. I mean, there's a way of life here that you're not going to find anywhere else on the planet. Never have been able to find on the planet for the last 250 years.
Yes.
And to actually reach a point where we're actually questioning whether that's going to stay that way, that, you know, I like that. You're supposed to be blessed to live in interesting times. I don't really want them to be that interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to there, but, you know, time will tell. Fortunately, those things have a way of correcting themselves because they are never successful. And they won't be this time either.
But it may not be an easy correction.
You know, it reminds me of Ecclesiastes, where he talks about, pretty much Ecclesiastes, talks about whatever has been will be. You know, whatever happened before will happen again.
Yeah.
And whatever is happening now will happen again in the future.
Yeah.
It's cycling. And we know the answer to the question. We know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Because of history. And wasn't it, you know, my favorite Senator Kennedy from Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
I love his quotes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things he said, what was it? He said, and this would apply to this, he says, if you trust your government, you obviously failed history class. So if you think this is a good thing in New York, you obviously flunked history miserably.
Yeah.
Or didn't have it at all.
Or didn't have it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless her hearts. You know, that's some of both. It's pretty sad. He has a book out right now. It's been out, I guess, for a little while. Have you seen the title of his book?
It's
It's how to test negative
for stupidity.
For stupidity or something.
And
like
why Washington people in Washington never do.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah. No, I like him. Him and he's one of my favorite. I love to hear him talk.
Yeah, he's got a great accent. He really does.
He talks about he made a comment one time where he was talking about somebody that was influential.
Yeah.
He said this guy could talk a dog off of a meat truck. Now that's some doing.
That's some doing.
Well, I think my dogs are well trained, but when I get some scraps and start putting them in the bowl,
Oh,
they
yeah.
just absolutely can't contain themselves.
They cannot
And I give
do
them the order to sit and stay, and the feet are just jumping. They'll sit for 2 seconds, hop back up, sit for 2 seconds. They're just overwhelmed by hormones and
Cannot
whatever.
wait.
Yeah, no, but so that would be a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
But
dogs love leftovers. I just do.
Oh, I know. Changing subjects. I have a long-term care case I want to talk about a little bit.
Sure.
Because some weird things happen. I don't know quite have the explanation for them, but have a person that's in long-term care, and the family approached me, and of course the person is not, you know, sometimes people think if you're in a nursing home you are dementia and you don't have capacity anymore.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't apply to everybody. I mean, there's certain things that put you in a nursing home that have that problem. Progressive diseases like, you know, dementia, things mental. There are a lot of those out there. But if you were just in there for some kind of serious heart problem or
Right.
you know, spinal problems where you can't do certain things for yourself and you need help, you can be in the nursing home and be 100% in control of your faculties, right?
Right,
In other
exactly.
words, you have no cognitive decline.
Right.
And this patient that the patient that I'm dealing with is that way.
Yes.
And I mean, I can call her and talk to her at the nursing home and discuss things with her. And
Sure.
so she has a power of attorney, but she can do things on her own.
Sure.
If we have to. But,
Sure.
But what happened was they contacted me, and they wanted to meet. We sat and discussed what we could do, and they thought that the plan was great, and they wanted to go forward. And as we were putting some stuff together, we're getting ready to file the application, and it turns out one has already been filed. And we kind of ran into that, and that was kind of odd, because they hired us to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, I mean, it was clearly so, we ran into it. And so I asked him, I said, you know, there's already been an application filed for you. And this patient, who is purely cognitive, I mean, no problem, said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, there's already been an application filed. She said, well, I didn't do it. I said, well, who did it? She said, I don't know, nobody ever even asked me. I found out that the nursing home did it. And so,
Oh, wow.
the administration of the nursing home. So I asked her, I said, did anybody ever come to you and say, we're gonna do this? Now, you know, I wasn't there, but she's adamant about the fact that she did not. She didn't know anything about it. Nobody ever brought that up to her. She has no clue.
Huh.
And that concerns me because, you know, the person can do it themselves, but typically somebody does it as their power of attorney.
Sure.
And I think I talked about a couple months ago that there's some people named in the application. You can have somebody called an assisting person that helps you file your application. But, you know, it even says here, I don't know if you remember, I said the language they use in the application says you can have an assisting person.
Yeah.
That's somebody who has your okay. Remember
Yeah.
I talked about that?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it certainly implies a permission, does it not?
That's right.
Or consent, and I'm wondering where that was. And so you know, what we had to do in that case was we had to name a couple members of my team as authorized representatives, and then we have to go in there and pull the application so that we can file, because the one they filed is doomed to failure. I mean, the just, you know, what the facility does for you, and now apparently doing it without your knowledge, at least it sounds that way. They're putting, you know, they'll ask you, they'll say, you know, let's say you're in a nursing home, they'll say, Jeff, how much money do you have in the bank? And you'll tell them, and they'll write it on the form, because there's a question for that.
Right.
You know, what real estate do you own, and you know, what's your primary residence, and do you own anything other than the primary residence as far as real estate goes? And it's a pretty intrusive application on your
Yeah.
income and your assets.
Right.
And it's kind of full disclosure. So you'll answer the questions, and they'll write all that stuff down, whatever you have, right? And they'll send it in. Well, it doesn't take a PhD to know that they're going to deny that for being over-resourced, because you can't have very much. And before we start doing something with their assets, 100% of the people don't have more than they're supposed to have.
Sure.
So we have to manipulate the assets to get down below the level of countable assets we're allowed.
Right.
They don't do that. They send it in, because I've seen this movie play before, where they send it in, it gets denied for being over-resourced. And when that comes back, I think to myself, you know, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
You know, a blind man can see that with a cane coming, right? And so they deny it, and then it's pretty much, well, just keep paying the care bill until you're down below
Until
this
you
number,
have nothing.
Then we'll send it in again. And so, you know, we don't want that to happen. So we intervened, and we filed authorization forms for us to act on their behalf. We had her actually sign them, submit them to 10 Care, so that puts us in charge, and whoever. You know, the other, and again, somebody else would have had to submit a 10 Care authorized representative form that should have been signed by her or her POA. So I just don't know. I'd like to get my hands on those forms. Now, if I had time, I might do something about it, but I don't. And
Sure.
what I'm doing about it is just resolving the situation before me.
Yes.
But I think there's a trend there. This is the second time I've run into this. And that would have had to been filed to give them the authority. So it sounds like somebody gave themselves the authority and think that's okay. So
Not good.
now, and here's the problem with that. I mean, we pulled the application because it was like filed in August, and they hadn't got around to giving an answer yet.
Right.
Okay? And we know what the answer is going to be. I mean, sometimes they're not the smartest, but they're not smart. I mean, there was way too many assets, and I mean, this person didn't have a ton, but it's certainly way over the limit. It's not hard to be over the limit. So we pull it. We're going to submit our own application. Now we will have lost that time, but in a way, we didn't lose time because they just hired us, and that would have started whenever they hired us anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but what it could have done for us, or for the patient negatively, is if they would have denied that application, all right, we could still file another application, but there's certain great things that go, certain statuses that go with the original application. In other words, sometimes you'll hear me talk about the fact that if you file your 10 Care application, you gain a status of application pending status. And in that, once you file that thing, now the nursing home has to treat you as if you have already been approved, okay? And then, but it takes them 3 months to finally approve you, right? Because
Yes.
it takes a while for them to look at it, ask a couple questions, to go through the motions, and then they grant the approval. And the theory makes sense because Say 3 months later, they say, okay, you're approved. Now, if you're approved 3 months later, that means the application you submitted 3 months before was approval, right?
Yes.
So they will now go back and pay from the day you filed the application to the facility. Well, because you don't have to private pay once you file once you become pending status. You don't have to, you pay only your income at that point, which is the patient liability.
Right.
Some people call it the copay, but it's the same concept. And so that's all you're required to pay, and then the nursing home doesn't get paid, but they will get paid when you get approved. They go back and pay from the day of the application.
Right.
Now, if that would have been denied, and we filed another application, our application would not have been the original application. And all those pending statuses that go with that, even through the levels of appeal, are strictly for the original application.
Oh, wow.
And here's why. If you could get it on subsequent applications, think about this. You file an application, let's say you just horribly missed the mark and you're way, way over-resourced and there's no way you can be approved, right? So you send it in, it's got all kinds of assets, and they deny it, okay?
Yeah.
Well, you turn around and do another one, send it in. And it takes them 3 months to look at it. And they deny it. And you turn around and do another one, send it in, it takes them 3 months to look at it. If you've got pending status on all these, it's a vehicle of abuse where you could punt this thing out for a long time, right?
Sure.
And
sure.
so it's really kind of, when you read the statute, there's only one spot where it actually mentions the word original, and I know where it is, and that's the way I read it. And so I don't want to be in that boat. So what we did was we, with haste, got the authority to reach in there and terminate that application. And so that now when we file ours, it'll be the original one, because it's if you pull it, it's not considered the original application. If you pull it before it goes through, it's the whole process.
Good.
So I mean, that could have been a real disadvantage to these folks, because it takes some time, and if you're on the secondary application, you are now private paying.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you lost this ability to say, yeah, I filed this application, I'm eligible. The answers on the application make me eligible. So you have to treat me like I'm approved, so that when you do approve me, you'll go back and pay from the date of submission.
Yeah.
You lose that on anything other than the original application.
Wow.
And I think, remember that case I talked about a while back that took 1 year and 4 months?
Yeah.
Well, we were on original application. That status pending goes through all levels of appeal.
Wow.
So that's why the nursing home was getting, back on that case, remember I said the nursing home was getting very antsy because we were up to a $100,000 debt because we weren't paying anything but our patient liability.
Right.
And they were thinking, they kept saying, well, something's wrong because it never lasts this long. Well, it did last that long, and they finally approved it, went back all the way 1 year and 4 months and paid the facility all the back, what they would have been paying had they started paying the day you actually filed the application.
Yeah.
So it all worked out okay, it just took forever and people were getting pretty nervous.
Sure.
And I don't blame them for that, because that was definitely
That was a long one.
excessively long.
That was a long one.
And so, hopefully this one will go okay, but we sort of dodged that bullet as far as pulling that application.
Yeah.
But it does concern me, because like I said, this is the second time, and I can think of a third and a fourth time where I suspect that's what happened, but the patient was heavily with dementia, and having a conversation about whether they said okay to do it or not, I couldn't get to. But again, if somebody's in there with dementia, you don't say, is it okay if we file your application, Aunt Gertrude? And if she's got serious cognitive decline and she says yes, that's not a yes, right? Mm-hmm. A yes can only come from somebody who's mentally sound.
Sure.
And but that kind of stuff worries me, that they do that.
Interesting.
Because they lack the authority. Now, don't get me wrong, if you work for a facility or something, I'm not saying everybody does that.
Yeah.
I'm saying when that gets done, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it widespread at all. I've just seen it happen before.
Said a couple of times, yeah, where it does happen.
No, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any check and balance on these places because somebody's going to pick it up. I don't understand why TennCare doesn't pick it up. They just take it signed. They just I guess they just take it. They just assume you got the authority. Now, it's kind of a low-level authority, loosely given, but it still has to be given.
Yeah. Well, Miss Peggy wants to chime in on us, I guess. Good morning, how are you?
Something he might want to check into is the organization of the hospital or the nursing home and the doctors. One of the things that's happening nationally is that nurses are leaving, doctors are unhappy, especially middle-aged and younger, is they say that, well, for one thing, almost 80% of the doctors now are employees. A lot are with just informal organizations, but a lot work for what am I talking? Anyway, they make a profit, and they're very concerned because they say that they're taking a lot of their functions away from them. Even the doctors said that the insurance companies and some of these, and the data people, the technology is taking their decisions. So I think that is probably instrumental of a way of somebody else besides the nursing home. I'm just going to throw that out as something you might want to research. But I wondered if Mr. Pierchoski could talk about the difference between grantor in irrevocable trust and non-grantor irrevocable trust. I'm mixed up on those, and I think that's why I ask questions sometimes that sound a little off on what he's doing. Because I've got friends, they may be doing it if it's for their family, but if they're doing it for extended family, it may be a different kind of irrevocable trust.
Okay, thanks, Peggy. All right,
The first thing,
I
I have no clue what she was trying to ask, or asking me to research. I mean, unfortunately, when you use they, and the doctor's leaving because they aren't, I don't get it, but it's out of my lane any way you look at it.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
doctors
probably-
may be leaving, maybe all becoming employees. I mean, I don't really care why. I'm sure they're doing it for some economic reason or something else. But
Yeah.
it's just I don't know that I could even research it. But the second one, yes. I think she asked this question before, and she does sound confused. The only problem I'm going to say right now, I'll be glad to explain it, but it gets kind of deep.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't want to, scare listeners off because I'm being too technical, but I'll try to do it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
There's and what she's talking. There's two kind of trust. There's a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust.
Yes.
And one thing I want to say about that, the two things, is right off the bat, if you want to ask the question, what's the difference between a revocable trust and irrevocable trust? I think overwhelmingly people say, well, I don't know. I guess one's revocable and one's not.
Yeah, that's what the automatic assumption is.
That is not the difference between the two. It is an unfortunate term. An irrevocable trust can be revoked. That sounds like a bunch of legal double talk. You say, oh, a lawyer's talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Yeah.
It's an irrevocable trust, and then you can revoke it. Well, I think it's an unfortunate name because our trust code is very clear how to revoke an irrevocable trust.
Yeah.
There's a whole section about it. So it can be done. There's two things that define an irrevocable trust. One, the maker of the trust cannot revoke it unilaterally. It has to involve the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
But it can be revoked. Two, the biggest difference between the revocable and irrevocable is on an irrevocable trust, you, the maker of the trust, cannot be the beneficiary, which is what gives us the credit and protection we're trying to accomplish with those things.
Yeah.
Whereas in a revocable trust, you can be the beneficiary. So those are two big issues. So now, if you have a revocable trust and irrevocable trust, you can also have what is called a grantor trust or a non-grantor trust, which is what she was asking. Now, the word grantor, there's three names for the grantor. The grantor is the maker of the trust. And there's three synonymous names used throughout, the trust industry. Grantor, trustor, and settlor, S-E-T-T-L-O-R. I
Okay.
rarely see the word settler used, every now and then. But the government uses grantor. I use trustor because we deal with trust. I think it makes more sense. So you have the trustor, the trustee, and the beneficiary, right? Mm-hmm. Or you can have the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary. The names are synonymous, one and the same. So, but the government uses grantor, and if you have a grantor trust or a non-grantor trust, here is the difference. All the trusts that I do, all of them, are grantor trusts, okay? I do not do non-grantor trusts. There are such things out there. They are IRS, tax relief kind of things. They don't really play into what I do because what we do is the asset protection for long-term care, stuff like that. Now, a grantor trust is a IRS term, and a grantor trust is what we call tax neutral. And what they mean by tax neutral is a grantor trust is called estate inclusion. You can have at your death, your property in your estate, or the property in your trust is either in your estate or it's not in your estate. I'm trying to make it simple. And if it's in your estate, it's inclusive. If it's not in your estate, it's exclusive. Okay?
Right.
I don't deal with exclusive of the estate trust because they don't fit what I do. They're unique things. They're out there. They're IRS things. They're banking things. I just don't do them because it hasn't done much to do with individuals trying to protect property for subsequent generations or protect them from long-term care. So everything I do is a grantor trust that is inclusive within the estate. Now what that means is this: if you have a piece of property, I don't know, let's say you got some money, let's say you got some CDs, earns interest, right?
Sure.
If it earns interest, that's income, right? And at the end of the year, you get something from the bank, probably like a 1099, it says, hey, you've received $500 worth of interest income over this year, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And when you do your 1040 tax return, you gotta report your income, and that's part of it. You gotta, you know what I mean? You have to report that, and then you pay whatever the tax is on that income, that's right. So, now let's say you're doing that, you don't have a trust, you're doing that with a CD. Now you decide to do a trust, one of my trusts, either one, because they're both grantor trusts, and you say, I'm gonna put the CD into the trust. Well, you put it into the trust. Now, grantor trust means the income produced of a piece of property in a trust belongs to the grantor. That's why they
Okay.
call it a grantor trust.
Okay.
And so they're gonna treat it as if it's your income. So what that means is even though the same CD, you just put it into a trust, right? And it still makes the $500 a year
Yeah.
interest. What the IRS is saying, this is tax neutral. They're saying, we don't care if it's in the trust making income or not in the trust making income. It's your income because it's a grantor trust and it's state inclusive. There's the magic language that has to be and it has to have the spendthrift clause. Those are the things that have to be in the trust. And so they're saying, this is your income. So the trust doesn't file a tax return. That's your income. We want to see that on your personal 1040 form. So what the advantage of all that, first of all, it gives you the creditor protection, but you don't file a tax return for the trust because whatever you're doing before you put the property in the trust is the exact same thing you do after you put it in the trust. It's seamless. So before you put it in trust, you get your 1099 about your CD making interest, you report it on your personal income tax return.
Okay.
You put the CD in the trust, it earns the same stuff the next year. You get the thing from the bank, the 1099, you report it on your personal 1040 tax return and report it just like you did before you did in the trust. It is
Interesting.
tax neutral. And tax neutral, you accomplish grantor trust status, and just you can say in the trust this is a grantor trust, but that doesn't make it that. You have to have the estate inclusive language and the spendthrift clause the proper way. And so, I mean, it's just not automatic. In other words, you can't go up to a horse and write the word COW on it and now it's a cow. It has to act like a cow to be a cow. So the trust has to act like a grantor trust to be a grantor trust.
Okay.
Now, if you have any questions about non-grantor trusts, I don't do them. I know about them, but I'm not fluent in them. You know, as a matter of fact, they have another name that I think is the stupidest name I've ever heard of. A non-grantor trust is, I've heard it referred to as an intentionally defective grantor trust. It's
that's weird.
who the heck's going to come and hire an attorney to produce an intentionally defective instrument? Now, what they mean is they are intentionally putting in, instead of estate inclusion language, they're putting in estate exclusive language, and the spendthrift clause is either removed or modified. And now it is a non-grantor trust. And there are some tax advantages to that, but they are purely tax things. They're not the stuff that we do. Because, you know, when we want to protect this property, we want to put it in the trust, which we're giving up ownership to, but we still want to maintain that thread of control over it all the time.
Right.
You know, you can get great tax advantages if you divorce yourself of all indicia of ownership and all indicia of control. Now, I mean, you literally don't have it you don't have no influence over it whatsoever anymore.
Yeah.
Now, you know, some like wealthy people do some of that sometimes because they don't really care if that piece of property
Sure.
is completely out of their domain.
Sure.
But now they can send it somewhere. The trust sends it somewhere, and you get tax advantages for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what the people I deal with are all that concerned about. They're more concerned to make sure their heirs get their property,
Right.
or it's the property is protected during their lifetime, so they have it at death to give to their heirs, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a good question, and I don't doubt that when she reads stuff on it, you get confused. I know the exact IRS opinion letter that discusses that.
Sure.
It's the kind of thing you got to read about 3 times before it finally sets in what they're saying, because they always use that reverse logic. And I have had this conversation many times with CPAs. They call and say, "Hey, my client came to you and you did trust form. I've got to file a 1041 tax return for the trust." I said, "No, you don't." They said, "Well, this revenue ruling says I do." And I said, "Well, let's pull the revenue ruling out and take a look at it together." And we look at it, and I point out to them where it clearly says if it's a grantor trust, it is inclusive. It is inclusive in the estate, not exclusive. If it was exclusive, yeah, it'd have to file its own tax return for
Right,
sure,
right.
because it's not yours, and completely not. You've given up all a thread of control or ownership.
Sure.
And so now it's a trust is viewed under law as an individual, so it's its own entity. It has now filed its own tax return, and that's the 1041 versus the 1040. But I don't do any of that. So she said something like she made a mistake or something with something, and it caused confusion. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if if you have a non-grantor trust, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure you can revoke that one because you give up all the power that you have.
Yeah.
But we don't want that in what we do, because we do the grantor trust because it empowers us to have enough control over the property to send it to our children, and enough control over it where we don't have too much to get the asset protection, the creditor protection of it once it's in an asset protection trust.
Wow.
So that's a complicated answer.
It is complicated.
The answer to that question is very complicated, and it's hard to do it on the radio. But when you hire me to do an asset protection trust, that's one of the things you're hiring me to do, is make sure that it does what it's supposed to do, and that's how we make it do what it's supposed to do. There has to be, there's a lot of language in these trusts, and a lot of it is geared toward, just saying it's estate inclusive, it's not like a single sentence. It's, oh, by the way, this is estate inclusive.
Yeah.
There's certain things like there's certain grantor rights. Because remember, the grantor is the maker of the trust.
Right.
Now, he's not the trustee, and he's not the beneficiary. Now, the maker of the trust could be the trustee, but I'm talking about they're acting in two different capacities when they do that. But we have grantor retained rights that if we give them certain rights, the default is exclusive of the estate. We don't want that. We want to maintain certain grantor rights so that we can protect it from creditors and still maintain control over it.
Interesting. And you're right, that's very complex, it seems.
I mean, you read those revenue rulings and you might as well, they make your head spin. I mean, I kind of got the knack of reading them. I kind of know how to do it now, but if you pick one up and you've never seen one before, it's like, well, what the heck did they just say?
And, the average guy like myself, that's why we need to hire you or someone like you that does what this work is. And it's important for your estate and your future, your family's future, to have the right instruments in place.
Now, here's another thing I've run into, because not only CPAs, but attorneys don't understand this, and and I've run into several of them.
Yeah.
And here's what can happen. I'm gonna give you an instance of what happened a while back. Somebody came to me with a trust. It wasn't one of mine, but they had a trust that came to me, and it turns out they were filing a 1041 for the last 5 or 6 years, or however long they've had it.
Yeah.
And as I looked into it, I kind of told myself, you don't need to be doing this. Now, it's kind of hard to change when you do that, because you go and get an EIN number, and then now once you got an EIN number, they're going to expect a tax return in that number.
Right.
And, I mean, you can do it, but one thing that I thought was interesting was they were doing it, it was a state inclusive document. It had everything it needed to be there. But they just decided, I think they told me, the attorney told them they got to get an EIN and file a tax return for it.
Right.
Which wasn't necessary. But for the 5 or 6 years they were doing that, nobody, including the IRS, said, hey, by the way, you're doing something wrong. I mean, nobody offers to correct the mistake.
Right.
They just let you keep going down whatever path you're going. Now, the only time they correct it, if it turns out that they're getting shorted money, then they'll be the first ones to say, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this, and now you owe us this, back money, and now we're going to put taxes, penalties and interest on it. But if you're paying too much, because you would be, and here's the main reason we don't want to be in a situation of a estate exclusive or non-grantor trust, is property in trust for a non-grantor trust is taxed at a much higher percentage.
What? You've almost lost me.
Okay, if you do the kind of trust I say I don't do,
Yes.
and you give up this control and put the property in trust, and it's a non-grantor trust. Remember, I only do grantor trust.
Yes.
If it's a non-grantor trust and it has estate exclusive, when considered at death, that's not in your estate. During your life, that piece of property has to file its own tax return. That's true. And property in trust that is not property in a non-grantor trust is taxed a much higher percentage.
Much higher percentage. Okay. So really,
and these people have been paying it, and nobody said, "Hey, you're paying way too much."
yeah.
I mean, nobody in receiving the money has the decency to tell them, first of all, to look at it and find out they're doing the wrong thing,
Right.
which they don't. Or if you did have 1 in 1,000 that looked at it and saw that they were paying too much, they don't reach out to them and say, hey, you don't need to be paying this tax.
They're just glad to get
They'll
the
take
tax.
it all day long.
They'll take it all day long.
You know, I get a lot of junk email. Right?
Sure.
You do too. And around tax time. You
Oh,
get a
yeah.
bunch. And I remember one that came out, actually one that came out not too long ago, about a tax prepare a firm or something like that.
Sure.
It was like, and I don't deal with them, it just came up. But I thought the subject matter of the email, I didn't even have to read the email to know what they were talking about.
Right.
And in that case, I guess I'll have to give them kudos because the subject matter was a pretty good marketing ploy because it definitely caught my attention.
Yeah.
And it was something like, how much of a tip did you give the IRS this year?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they're referring to overpayment, right?
Right. Right.
So I thought that was pretty cute because I had to go read it after that. And I thought, oh, I know where these guys are going.
How much
And
of
that's
a tip?
And that's exactly what it was. It says if you overpay, they will take it all day long, and they will never notify you that you're giving them too much money. It's not, and they'll play the not our job to tell. We don't give you, it's a self-reporting system.
Yeah.
If you need help to pay the right amount, go get help. But if you overpay us, we're not. Now, people say, well, I filed and get refunds. That's not the same thing. You know what I mean? That's money that was taken from your paycheck and sent in. And if that's more than what your tax
Sure.
is, you get the
refund.
tax fund, right? And you use the tax return to determine it.
Right.
This is you figure your tax. Let's say make it real simple. You figure your taxes up. It turns out you owe $100.
Yeah.
And you for some reason send them $125.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. Your tax return didn't say you owed extra money,
Right.
or what these folks were getting at. Some of the things on your tax reform are either saying you have to pay more or not there at all, so you don't get the deduction, and you're
Right.
paying more.
Right.
I mean, that happened to me one time. I had a building that I owned. My law office was in it, and you can depreciate the building.
Sure.
Well, I've heard of that, but I had somebody doing my taxes, and for 10 years it didn't take any depreciation. I never really caught it because I'm of the opinion, and maybe I shouldn't be this way, but I'm so busy doing everything else. It's like if I have to review my tax return to see if you're doing it right,
Yeah.
then what the heck do I need you for? I might as well just do it myself, right? Because I have to know what I'm talking about to review it.
Yeah.
And I'd have to know how to fill it out in the first place if I'm smart enough to review it. And so I had a tax guy that said, you haven't been taking depreciation on this. And I said, no. And he said, let me look into this because you can do this for 39 and a half years or whatever
wow.
it is, right?
Wow.
And now that Trump's in there, Trump now says you can do it all in 1 year.
Yeah.
That was one of his incentives.
Yeah.
Build a factory, get all the depreciation in 1 year.
In
What
1 year.
What a deduction. 39 is a long time to depreciate
Sure it
a
is.
building. So anyway, turns out that I could take the 10 years deduction all in one whack.
Oh, wow.
And it took a couple of different forms that nobody else seemed to know about, but it was available to do. So that's kind of what they were getting. But I thought that was interesting. They said, well, how much of a tip did you give the IRS last year? So, I like to consider myself a patriot.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to pay my taxes. I'm more
Sure.
than happy to pay my fair share, but I'm not overly happy about paying more than my share.
That's right.
I mean, I will contribute, but I think that's up to me. You know what I mean? If somebody wants, if I want to make a political contribution, I want to make the decision to make it, and I want to make the decision how much.
Right.
I don't want to pay more in taxes when I don't owe more in taxes because you pay enough of it. There's just
Yeah.
you pay enough of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I get the idea of taxes.
And it's that time of year to be looking at it.
It's coming as soon as you hit the first of the year, you'll start hearing all
Yeah.
about taxes because that's when the W-2s go out. They have to be out by January 30th or something like that. People start getting those, and a lot of people like to file early, especially if you're getting a refund.
Yeah.
So don't call me if you have tax questions. I understand tax questions pretty good about trusts and stuff, but if you're just a basic tax question on your 1040, I'm not the guy to call. I know when I'm in my lane and when I'm not. So, like I say, I hire professionals to do my taxes.
Yes.
Because I'm an LLC and I'm a one attorney LLC, and there are certain deductions and claims I can make as an LLC, right?
Right.
And I certainly want the people I hire to take advantage of all of those.
Sure.
Because when you're a one-person business and I employ people, I'm contributing to the economy.
Sure.
I pay people that work for me. We contribute to their IRAs and their 401k plans and stuff.
Yeah.
We pay the taxes. So there's advantages to me to be a small employer like that. And so I want to take advantage of those. But when at the end of the day, I'm happy if we've mitigated my tax burden to what it needs to be, and there's
Sure.
nothing, and if there's no more deductions or claims for me to take, I'm happy. I'll take. Happy is not the word I want to use. I'm saying I'm satisfied.
Satisfied.
I feel like okay, I did my part.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to do my part.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I do more than my part, I will, but I want to make that decision. It's kind of like doing pro bono.
Yeah.
Lawyers can do pro bono work.
Yeah.
At no cost. And when I used to do different stuff than what I'm doing now, often people would come in and ask me to do it for them pro bono.
Yeah.
And my position was, I would never do it for anybody that comes in and asks me to do it pro bono.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave, it's up to me to decide to do that. And I have on quite a few occasions throughout my legal life, somebody came to me and they had a problem, they were in dire straits.
Yeah.
And I felt like they were being taken advantage of, and I have offered to do that, and I've
Sure.
done that.
Sure.
Since I've been an estate planner, I had a guy come to me one time, and he had a wife, and it was like a blended family, and his wife passed away.
Yeah.
And the two kids, there was a deed that the person was without a will, and had a deed, and so the deed would involve the surviving spouse and the two kids. Well, the two kids went to an attorney and had them draft up a deed leaving the property to them. And they gave them a notice to get out.
Yeah.
Because of course they weren't happy with mom's new husband.
Yeah.
And they weren't on good terms and stuff like that. And he came to me and he was just kind of distraught. He said, I'm living there for 15 years with her and she passed away, and now the kids give me like 30 days to be off the property, they're kicking me out. And I looked at the deed and I saw immediately that the deed was defective, and whoever drew it up either didn't know she had this spouse or was just flat out doing something wrong. And so I contacted him, and he was just shocked to find out the facts. And he said, "No, you're right. That deed has to go to the spouse and the two children
Yeah.
in equal share. The spouse a third, and each child a third, something like
Right.
that." And so I told this guy, I said, "Look, he didn't have much. I told him, I said, I'll be glad to clean this up for you. I did, and I probably expended 4 or 5 hours. I did
Sure.
court one time, and and I just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
The guy needed help. He was going to get screwed over. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I felt sorry for him, and he needed help, so I gave it. But when I used to do criminal work, I had people come in and start off things. I don't have any money, so if you're going to do this, I want you to do it pro bono. It's like, well, I don't do it for people that ask me to do it pro bono. I just think that is the worst reason in the
Yeah.
world to do it.
Yeah. It's okay if it's your idea.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I will do it. I will help.
Yeah, that's good. And I know exactly what you mean.
Same thing. I mean, for some trust plans and stuff, I've modified my price if it'll help out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to get paid for what I do, but I can modify that and be okay. And I mean, you got to do what feels good to you.
Sure.
And I understand the tithing and giving and helping fellow man, and I believe in it 100%.
Absolutely.
It gives me a wonderful feeling when I do that. I know some of the people in my office were a little saying, I don't know why are you doing this for this guy? I said, because he needs me.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't the most pleasant guy in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? But I mean, he wasn't ugly or rude or anything, but he's just the kind of guy who's hard to talk to and stuff
Yeah.
like that. People kind of have a natural dislike for somebody like that.
Sure.
And I thought, well, I'm not being pals with the guy. He's not going to go out and have a beer together.
Right.
But he's getting screwed over, and I don't like to see that to anybody.
Sure.
This legal process is going to screw him over unless somebody points this mistake out. When I pointed out to the attorney that wrote the deed, I think he was a little worried something was going to happen to him. And I said, look, I'm not going to pursue anything like that. I just want to fix it for the guy.
Yeah.
He said he'd be more than happy to do a corrective deed. He'll explain to the kids what happened. And we took it into court, and we filed the deed, and we dropped the law. I explained to the court that these guys are willing to drop the lawsuit. I mean, they hired an attorney here.
Yeah.
Here in town, and
Yeah.
we went, and everybody was in agreement with that, and we fixed it. Nobody really got in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened and how it got that way, if there's anything shady, but I don't want to go that way. If I get the solution, I'm just going to let that go. I mean, people have to answer for their own conduct. If they were doing something shady, they'll hear about that someday.
They will. That's a truth.
It's like, oh, by the way, remember that time you tried to screw that guy over?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be, when that day comes for me, I want to have as little load on my back as possible.
We got enough of a load as it is.
It
don't
is, that's right. So, I can't remember what started that conversation. Anyway, kind of brought us toward the end anyway.
This hour clicked off pretty fast.
It did. I hope I talked about a few
Stan
things.
Pierchoski, everybody, with Pierchoski Estate Law, located in Pulaski, Tennessee. And we are winding up the hour. And of course, every Friday he is here talking about bulletproof estate planning. And we end up talking a lot about wills and trust and nursing homes and rules and regulations, and sometimes it gets a little complicated. But
It can.
But we have been enlightened with conversations with you for the last couple of years.
It's been a little more than 2 years.
It's been a little more than 2 years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just real quick, if you need to talk to me about anything, not just what we talk about on the radio, but anything else, if it's estate related, I'm more than happy to talk about it. Give me a call, Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law. The number is 931 363-7222, 931-363-7222. You can go to my website, it's estateplanstand.com. There you can send me a question by email if you want, or get the phone number
Sure.
if you can write it down. Or you can look at my calendar, see where I'm gonna be, and you'll see on there the next place I'm gonna be with a public speaking event with my seminar called Will's Trust in the Nursing Home. We're holding that Saturday, November the 22nd at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Williamson County Public Library. The physical address for that is 1314 Columbia Avenue in Franklin. So
Now, is that the Saturday after Thanksgiving or before?
it's right before. It's
Right before.
It's 2 weeks.
Saturday before
The
Thanksgiving.
following Thursday is that Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So it's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
It's amazing how fast that's gonna get
You
here.
know what I saw? I know we're winding up. I was what?
We're still
wife had,
good.
Wife had the TV on. I walked by and there was a commercial on, and they had big words at the bottom that said 50 days till Christmas. And I thought, really?
Yeah, there's
Not
only
that they
like-
were advertising. It was like, really? Only 50 days till Christmas? So all of a sudden it seems close. And here it is. And that's how it sneaks up on you.
I saw the almanac this morning, only 44 days till winter.
Yeah.
Winter is here.
Well, they're
Almost.
talking about astrological.
Cold
winter,
temperatures next
which is
week. so-
December 21st, right?
Yeah.
Or the solstice.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the equinox.
Equinox.
is in December, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sunday's my birthday.
Is it really?
Don't ask how old I am because it's none of your business.
Well, happy birthday to you. Hope you have a great
If you
one.
want to know
you
how
will.
old I am, you have to cut me in half and count the rings.
Well, I'm going to get you the same thing I got you last
Yeah,
year.
okay. I tell you what, I insist you give me twice as much.
Oh, twice as much.
Double
Okay.
it.
We'll double what we got you
Sounds
last year.
good.
Absolutely. Stan Pierchoski, everybody, back quick. What's going on at the theater?
Oh, okay. Actually, tomorrow they have a movie sing-along.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock and at 7 o'clock, and the movie sing-along is Wicked. So that'll be cool.
Oh, that'll be
and then
fun.
Sunday we got a guy named Worley, Kenny Worley, I think it is. He's been in a couple of our hee-haw shows. He's a country piano player.
Yeah.
He's giving at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He's giving a little concert, just himself singing. It's pretty good.
Very,
He's a
very
pretty good
good.
singer.
Very good.
Pretty good guitar player.
Stan Pierchoski, everybody. Pierchoski Estate Law. Look him up at Bulletproof Estate Planning. It's estateplanstand.com is a good way to do it, or 363-7222. Thanks for being with me, buddy.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.
This is WDXE.
Wow, look at the clock. It's only a few seconds into the last minute. It's never been a whole minute.